He throws a bear into outer space. He throws a bear into outer space. He throws a bear into outer space and the bear becomes a star. A constellation, nonetheless. Ladies and gentlemen, it was at this point in proceedings that I knew that I'd landed on an absolute winner here with Luigi Cozzi's 1983 semi-space opera, semi-swords and sorcery action-adventure adaptation of the life and trials of Hercules. A film that genuinely engrossed me for all of the full 1 hour and 39 minute runtime through a mixture of fantastic, camptastic, glamtastic visuals and special effects that ranged between being somewhere on the laser light show end of the spectrum and the good lord this is awful side. This is a very loose adaptation of the Greek legends of Hercules, a man gifted with the strength of the gods in order to protect humanity from the growing evils of the world. The original mythos of the character can get pretty fucked up at times. So for this movie to swan in and somehow match and in certain cases surpass some of the original historical mythos, well, it's impressive to say the least. Where this film deviates mostly from the original Greek legends is in the more sci-fi influenced elements of the narrative, with certain aspects of the original legend specifically relating to creatures and beasts being largely changed to giant stop-motion robots. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. The plot. Hercules stars the titular Hercules, the son of the king and queen of Thera, a once bountiful and pleasant land that has a small revolution building in the city's undergrowth. The film opens with an explanation of the creation of the universe and how an item known as Pandora's Jar was destroyed during the initial stages of the creation of the universe, leading to all of the good and bad things in the world being released to spread out across the galaxy. This then gave way to humans existing on Earth and by extension the Greek gods coming into existence to help maintain a balance to the inhabitants of Earth to ensure that they don't become too good or too evil. When evil seems to be preparing for a hostile takeover of the planet, Zeus decides the best way to counterbalance this is to instill the strength of a god into the body of a single human. This human's chosen to be Hercules. But shortly after the power is given to him, the revolution in Thera rises up. They steal the sacred sword of Hera, a weapon which allows for the owner to control Thera, and the ability to wield the power of the Phoenix. The king and queen of Thera are murdered and baby Hercules is set to be the next on the chopping block, until one of the kingdom's hand servants snatches him away and places him in a small boat which is set to travel down a back river and out of the city. The revolutionary guards give chase but decide to let him go when they realise he's heading out of the city and will probably either drown, be eaten or starve to death before anyone finds him. It's an initially perilous journey, but with some help from the gods, Herc arrives near a riverbank where he's rescued by two local hermits who decide to raise him as their own. Some time passes and the gods begin to grow concerned that Hercules' strength is becoming unrestricted. They come to this conclusion after his stepdad is killed by a bear and Hercules fucking launches the goddamn bear into space. When the revolution's king of Thera, the cruel king Gorgias, I'm sure I murdered the pronunciation there, but alright, prays to the gods to find and destroy Hercules, one of the evil gods, Daedalus, again, apologies, responds saying that she agrees that Hercules must be stopped and offers a set of evil robot monsters to try and take down the mighty man. One of these robots attacks and kills Herc's stepmother, and with both his family members dead, he decides that he must set out on a quest to find out exactly who he is, why people keep wanting him killed, and maybe find someone who understands him along the way. In a journey that'll see him challenge the entirety of a kingdom's royal guards, steal the wife of a king's heart, regenerate a sorceress and throw all manner of other shit into space, Hercules 1983 is a memorable experience to say the least. In terms of the script, well, I think it tells the story of Hercules in a fun and unique way. It's not strict to the original mythos, so if you're coming into this thinking you're going to get anything resembling period authenticity, you'll probably be quite disappointed. This features space hydras. But if you're looking for something that has a touch of the Barbarellas about it and you like fantasy space operas, this quite possibly could be for you. It borrows a lot of cues from the epic era of cinema, movies like Ben-Hur and The Ten Commandments, but it contrasts them with sci-fi movies which were popular at the time, like Star Wars or Superman. And that tonal mashup is both jarring and works on almost every possible level. It's hard to put into words exactly why it works, but I think it's because both aspects of this film offer a palate cleanser from each other. Had this just been a generic space movie, it probably would have worn quite thin after about an hour or so. And had this just stuck to the fantasy historic elements, I'd have probably been bored out of my tiny mind by the 40-minute mark. But because both of these tones interrupt each other, neither side seems to really bed in, and as such it gives me breathing space to appreciate both sides of this film's story. In fact, the only thing I didn't really care for plot-wise, and big spoilers here for the end of the movie, so skip to this time if you don't want to be spoiled, but the ending itself is horrific. I mean, it adds to the over-the-top tone of the movie, but Hercules basically commits genocide on the people of Thera. The film doesn't acknowledge this, but when Herc defeats the bad guys and releases the power of the Phoenix back into the world, it triggers a volcanic eruption that destroys Thera, killing almost all of its inhabitants. Well, those members of the public weren't evil, they were just your average Joes. They were probably unhappy at being ruled over by an evil king, but ultimately they were going about their business. Now they're all dead. All because Hercules wanted to get his end away with an admittedly ridiculously attractive king's wife. It's quite shocking, really, and I don't think the film really wants you to focus on that ending, but that's what happens. You clearly see people running through the fire, screaming and trying to get out of the city as it burns to the ground. It's distressing to say the least, and it did kind of make me think a bit less of this film. They didn't need to destroy Thera. They could have just as easily had the public seize control of the city and declare it a democracy, or something, I don't know. Anything was better than Hercules dooming a city because he was horny. The dialogue isn't this film's strongest point, it's a bit overwordy and can be a bit too descriptive at times. But that's predominantly because this film wasn't originally written in English. This is an Italian film. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying that this exclusively features Italian actors, nor am I saying that this was shot entirely in Italy. What I mean by this is an Italian film is that it's shot to Italian sensibilities of the time, which in the 70s and 80s meant that it didn't matter what language you spoke, if you looked the part, you were in the movie. As such, this film features actors from all over the world, and in this film they speak in their native languages. You see, the idea was that you would record the film with the cast giving their best performances in their native language because it meant that they appreciated what they were saying more than if they tried to learn a language and then imagine how the dialogue should sound when delivered in that language. Once this was performed, they would then simply dub over the rest of the cast into whatever language the film was being screened to, and then call it a job done. For example, if you had 3 or 4 German actors, they'd speak German in the film, and then the rest of the cast would all be dubbed into German for the German release. You may have 6 Italian actors speaking Italian in the film, in which case the rest of the cast would be dubbed into Italian for the Italian screening. It's a very strange but quite understandable way to make a movie, because these films as a rule would be circulated through most of Europe and the States. And if your cast is diverse and covers most of Europe, then there's always going to be at least a percentage of the film that won't need to be redubbed again. Because of this, however, most film sets didn't use on-site recording, and ADR in these movies can be absolutely awful, with none of the dialogue matching anywhere near the mouth movement of the cast at times due to many translation issues that were present when converting the film into the language it wasn't originally written in. Performance-wise, it's hamtastic. It's over-the-top, melodramatic, nonsensical whimsy at its finest. I loved this film for its performances here. Lou Ferrigno is an absolute monster of a man in this film, and I love that even though he's dubbed over here, his personality shines through, giving us an upbeat and clean-cut interpretation of Herc that I, for one, can definitely get behind. Mirella D'Angelo as Circe gives an absolutely spellbinding performance here too. She has some great moments of emoting, and even though she's dubbed too, her facial performances are simply top-notch. There's a lot to love in this film, and I wouldn't say it's manic ham either, so if you're looking for something that really offers a more relaxed set of eccentric performances, this film may well deliver for you. On writing and directing duties here we have Luigi Cozzi. The man has a bit of infamy for Italian schlock cinema in cult circles. He's a writer and director in equal measures, having written about as much as he's directed, though he does have a couple of genuinely good writing credits under his belt. The one that stood out to me was mainly his work with Dario Argento in writing the script for the Giallo classic Cat o' Nine Tails. But as a director, well, he's pretty awful. How bad is he? Well, he did a space opera before Hercules in the form of 1978's Star Crash, a film so bad it was covered on Mystery Science Theatre 3000 a couple of years ago. He's also responsible for the likes of Contamination, a piss-poor Alien knockoff, and in 1977 he oversaw some of the worst colourisations of Godzilla ever put to film. Throw in a few sleazy low-budget horror knockoffs and the guy's an all-round schlock master. That's not to say, though, that I don't dig his style as a director. Indeed, Hercules here, from a direction standpoint, to me at least, is a lot of fun. The cast are all highly animated, they use the sets and locations to the best of their abilities, and the way the director moves around these sets is also quite unique and interesting. Particularly the opening sequence in which we see the universe being formed. That's a proper head trip and a great way to hook an audience in within the first 5 minutes. Cine-wise, again, it's pretty nice. There's nothing offensive that immediately jumped out to me in terms of shot types and composition. It looks like a professional production and they use all the right shots at the appropriate moments to try and convey actor feeling and set up scenes without actually physically telling the audience what's happening. In fact, the only thing I can pick fault with from a cine perspective is some of the effect shots used in this film. Now, don't get me wrong, outside of the intro and the quite wonderful use of rainbow motifs throughout this film to showcase the sparks of swords clattering or laser blasts, this film's effects are, well, horrifically ropey. The key is whether that choppiness falls onto the side of being so bad it's good, or whether it's genuinely just terrible. Effects like the bear fight with Hercules are definitely in the so bad it's good category for me. But then effect shots like Zeus saving a baby Hercules, or how some of the robot monsters simply fade away when defeated, are just really poor. And that can and did pull me out of the action at times, but given how reliant this film is on its effects, I'd say it's easily a 70-30 split between so bad it's good and just plain bad. There's something for everyone here, I guess. Well, unless you like genuinely good movies. Finally, the soundtrack. And it's a big thumbs up from me. This is another great aspect from which this movie takes a massive lead from the epics of yesteryear. It's all booming orchestral scoring, but it does so in a way that gives this film a sense of its own identity. It feels tonally right for this movie. It's uplifting and, most importantly, it doesn't feel stocky in any way, shape or form. It's a great soundtrack. While I don't think it would be one that I'd put on regularly, I'd love to have it in my collection to take out and give a quick spin alongside some of my other movie soundtracks. Hercules was released on VHS in the UK in 1985, and it's had plenty of releases since then. In Europe it had a DVD release sometime in 2009, and in the US both Hercules and its sequel, Hercules 2, were released together in one DVD box set in 2007. Its newest release came in 2016 at the hands of 101 Films, who bundled together 3 of Lou Ferrigno's more mythical movies into one collection for the first time on Blu-ray in the UK. And while the extras are pretty much non-existent, I must say they've done a very nice job with the remastering of this movie. There are some instances of tramlines which distracted a little bit here and there, but for the most part, given how many overlay effects were used in this film, I'm astounded they've managed to get it looking anywhere near as good as it looks here. So serious kudos to them, they've done a very nice job. This set's also very cheap at the time of recording, it's currently around £6, and I highly recommend picking this one up if, like me, you love a good slice of cheesy weirdness. Ultimately, Hercules 1983 was a delight to sit through. This is one of those movies that I always hope to stumble on when I'm doing these reviews. An honest-to-God slice of utterly mesmerising, weird cinema that doesn't take itself too seriously, and that I can relax into and just enjoy the journey. It's not trying to push any technical boundaries, it's just trying to entertain, and in that regard it succeeds tremendously. It's found its pride of place on my shelf and I look forward to digging it out again at some point in the near future. A good bad film in every sense of the word. If you haven't seen this, you really need to.